The views expressed in this interview are those of the individuals and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. government, the Department of Defense, the U.S. Navy, or the Naval Postgraduate School. The Trident Room has been brought to you by the Naval Postgraduate School Alumni Association and Foundation. For questions, comments, and suggestions, please email us at tridentroompodcasthost@nps.edu and find us online at nps.edu/tridentroompodcast. Welcome to the Trident Room, brewer of stout conversation, unfiltered and on tap. In today's podcast, NPS student Mike Morris sits down and has a drink with recent NPS graduate Major John Cocomazzi.
Welcome to the Trident Room. On this episode, we have John Cocomazzi, a recent graduate of the NPS National Security Affairs Department in the European curriculum. Is that right, John?
That's right, Mo. Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, yeah, sure. Oh, ooh, professional. What are you drinking there, John? We're gonna
got a little Knob Creek old-fashioned style here.
Yeah, that's what. You can hear that. Yeah, you can hear that in the glasses too. I treat my guests right. That's one thing that I want to be sure of. The Trident Room, has been a part of NPS for the longest since 1953, and we go there on Thursdays and crack open a beer or pull one, get a draft in our mugs there. Do you have a mug?
I do.
What number is your mug?
I never actually put it into the bar there.
Oh, yeah. My God. So you just keep it at home or something and bring it with you in your bag?
Oh, no, it's my collector's item from the school here.
Okay.
When I go to the bar there, I just get a regular glass.
Oh, you just get
Yeah.
That's
lame, right?
Yeah, it's kind of
defeats the purpose.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell anybody my mug number, not yet, because if this doesn't go well for me, it's going to end up broken on the floor sometime, right?
That's for sure.
How often did you come to the Trident Room?
I think I went there maybe monthly, I would say.
Okay, a couple times a quarter, basically.
Yeah. Yep. And I would recommend people to definitely take advantage of the socialization. Right now, I know it's still restricted. We can't just socialize and everyone go in the Trident Room. But
it is closed right now.
Right.
I mean, by the time when this episode airs, almost guaranteed it will still be closed.
Right.
But it's a bar. It's classified as a bar on base, so it's held to that standard, which is much later phases.
Yeah.
But
what I would say is I'd recommend people taking advantage of however much you are allowed to socialize in any venue that is allowed. Take advantage. That is I'd say a borderline regret of my time here is not taking advantage of the social interactions that were afforded to me. So too much of a nerd in my office, I think. Is how I felt.
You just like close that door and you're like, I'm comfortable in the numbers, man.
Yeah. I think I enjoyed working alone too much.
Maybe a little bit too much, because of course where you're going into, it's going to take a little bit more of a partnership and consensus building, maybe.
Oh yeah, and I think part of the
future.
Exactly, and it's one of the big aspects of the time at NPS here is to meet people and interact and get outside of your service or your even country and learn from other people. I found you learn a lot in class about the material and from the professor, but in that room you learn the most from your peers. Especially, I had the great fortune of being in class with a lot of international students, and there I learned a lot about what they're going through and what their lives and careers are like. So definitely valuable experience.
Yeah. Where were you born?
New York State.
New York State, specifically. What part of New York State?
Putnam County. It's north of Westchester County. Yeah, so I don't have a New York City accent, no Long Island, but yeah.
Are you sure?
I mean, you tell me.
Did you grow up there too?
Yeah, all 17 years before going to college.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's something, a good point to mention, I think. Full disclosure is you and I went to college together, right? So you came right after high school as well? Are we the same age? I was born in 87.
Yeah, 87 as well.
Yeah.
I had to get signed off to go enter the Air Force Academy.
Yeah, I had my birthday during basic training. I don't know when.
Oh, happy birthday to that.
It was like field training day. We were MREs. They let me keep my Skittles at the MRE.
Good.
Remember,
That's
they used to take our candy, right?
Yep.
If we had it. Yeah.
Here, you can keep this like egg omelet, but everything else.
Yeah. Here's your special treat, the egg omelet.
Yeah, we were actually roommates for at least 2 quarters, I believe.
Sophomore year, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were we roommates ever after that?
No, I went to the Naval Academy for an exchange, and then you found a better roommate after.
I think so, Ben, right? Yeah. Ben was a great roommate. We try to keep up sometimes on occasion. He's kind of shy to the world still. It's always been his personality. You know? You're kind of shy though too. I was actually kind of surprised that you agreed to come on and be interviewed.
Well, I mean, I want to help out, and it's good to get out of my comfort zone every once in a while. So. Yeah.
Well, and it's good to have a friend, I think, on the other side of the table because I'm getting out of my comfort zone too. Like a month ago, would I have told you that I was going to sit down and interview people on a podcast? No way.
No, I was surprised. I didn't know this podcast was being formulated at all, but I think it's a great way to make up for the fact that we can't actually get to the Trident room right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You know, we've been, I think, missing out, and, you know, we can talk a little bit more about this, you know, in a bit, but we've really been missing out kind of on some of the on-campus experience here. I want to say me especially because I'm just coming up on my, you know, second quarter, whereas you graduated in the spring, at the end of spring, right? No, at the end of winter quarter.
Yeah, winter, technically. It was the end of March.
Yeah, the end of winter quarter. So your entire, you know, learning experience, if you will, was in residence, like properly on campus, if you will, in the traditional sense.
Correct. Yeah, I had 1 quarter so far just doing teacher's assistant during the online environment, but never from a student perspective. So, mad respect for you all that are getting through it, and I know you're all succeeding through it, but I could see that it's not easy.
Definitely not in my opinion, anyways. It hasn't been. But you know, I'm still grateful for being here. It just hasn't been. It's been tough in a different way. It's going to be tough anyways, right? It's full time, you know, postgraduate work, graduate and postgraduate work. So it's going to be like there's high expectations, and they leverage that on us, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And in the distance learning environment, it's just obviously juggling everything that's going on at home. And, you know, maybe it's hard to actually escape from some distractions that are at home.
So, growing up, what made you be attracted? What attracted you to military service?
So for me, I was a nerd definitely in high school. I was more interested in the aeronautical engineering side of things. I liked planes. I liked the high-tech stuff.
Is that why you applied to the Air Force Academy?
Yes, definitely. I had a friend that was 100% Navy. I let him go the Naval Academy route. I had other friends in my high school that went to West Point. I actually lived only inside an hour to West Point, so I got to go there a few times for winter track meets. But yeah, it was Colorado and the technology of the Air Force and aircraft that really inspired me to pursue the Air Force Academy.
What about? I mean, you mentioned Colorado. Had you visited there in the past, like when you were looking at colleges or something? Is that? So
I got picked up for the summer seminar program, which was like an intro to cadet life back in the day. I had already had previous interest in going that route, but that really cemented the decision to go there.
Right on. Is that is that what your major was? What was your major?
Oh yeah, aeronautical engineering.
Yeah. How did that go?
It was tough.
It's one of the tougher programs in the country for that, isn't it? If it's not the top, I don't know what it was rated at the time.
Yeah. So it definitely was a tracked focus in the engineering realm. I would say that it gave me some help during pilot training, but in the end, here I am, more on the political science side of things, and I definitely would say I have a breadth in the academic realm. At this point, the aeronautical engineering degree was great to do, but I do not have an interest in going back into that. It was very challenging.
It is kind of an interesting shift in your academic work because the NSA department is, you know, qualitative in their approach. You know, whereas like OR or something is quantitative in their approach to research. International relations has, you know, a quantitative realm inside of it, but in this program, the NSA department, it's on the kind of qualitative realm. Is it easy for you to is a shift, you know, from like math, science, engineering, numbers into kind of this into this other side of it?
I would say no, it wasn't easy. I'm kind of comfortable operating in the numbers and the science. basically it took me 4 quarters to get through this program, and once I finished, that's when I knew, hey, I'm going to survive.
It's going to be okay.
Upon graduation, I was like, I'm going to survive. So it's been a great learning experience, and now, honestly, I do like the political science aspect, the political science field. I do enjoy having a breadth of experience. I had the more analytical side of things previously, and now this is going to be more practical, I think, in my future position.
What made you, so at the start, after graduation, you went to undergrad pilot training, right? And you started out in C-130s, and then you've spent some time. How many years did you do in C-130s, and then you switched over to remote piloted aircraft?
I was in C-130s for 3 years, so it was one tour in Little Rock, and then I jumped over to RPAs.
Is that something you knew you were going to do?
No, I did not know.
Did you apply for it?
I did. So after a deployment to Afghanistan, I returned and we found out that our H model was going to be deactivated. So everyone had to find basically new jobs. And I had some inner reflection going on and was curious about what I should do next that would be best for myself and my wife. She was in the Air Force at the time, and we were geographically separated. So balancing the desire to be co-located as well as looking at a futuristic platform with, again, technology and a new community with great potential, I decided to jump over to MQ-1s, the Predator, and then eventually the Reaper MQ-9.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. So I've seen those operating in the desert a lot, with my time. We have, some manned and remote piloted aircraft. Being sensitive, that word for you in your community. Being sensitive to your community, not saying unmanned. But yeah, I mean, I've seen those in action in the desert as well. And, it's phenomenal what they do for us. The loiter times they have some of those platforms and switching multiple crews. Like, is that like a strange experience that you roll into the office in the morning, you grab a cup of coffee, and then you sit down and you fly one of these things for 10 hours, and then you like go home, you don't take it off, you don't land it. Like, what do you like? How's that?
Oh yeah, it was totally different. Like, because they have got ground crews, launch and recovery crews that actually launch the aircraft. They're downrange in the deployed location, and their primary job is to just launch and recover. And then mission crews are separated, usually in Vegas or
Is that
New
something
Mexico.
you would do too, though? Like, would you like deploy and do launch and recovery, or is that like totally a separate team that's in the field? I
did not deploy. It changed. The way they did operations changed, and Air Force Special Operations Command and Air Combat Command kind of did things separately. But the way Air Combat Command, ACC, went was to have a single squadron that was deployed. They would deploy and they'd come back and they'd do training and then they deploy and come back. So they had that continuity and proficiency in that launch and recovery phase. But for my squadron, our job was just the mission. So yeah, we would take off a plane one morning and then the next morning we'd come back to work and maybe land that same plane. It was bizarre.
That is bizarre. Yeah, that's wild.
And you can only log one sortie in that case. So it was like,
But I came to work twice.
Yeah, that was just a running joke there. Yeah. No, but I definitely took a lot of value out of the RPA experience. I'm still part of that community. Air Force does the Foreign Area Officers dual track. We'll probably get into maybe some of the Foreign Area Officer stuff later.
We can go into it now if you want to.
Yeah. So I'm still part of that community. I'm just kind of on loan to the Foreign Area Officer track right now, and after 3 years, I should be expecting to go back into that community. So. Definitely the time in my career where I learned the most and had the best experience and some of the best mentors in leadership in general and just growth, personal growth, I would say.
Around the time that you switched over to remote, is that around when Maria, your wife, got out? Is it around the same time, like when you were going into that training platform? When did she exit?
She got out in 2017, so we were living together for about two and a half years before she got out. But yeah, it was anticipating the next move. We were due to move again, and being stationed together again was highly unlikely. So. Oh,
and that's when you went to. You were in Vegas, right?
Yep.
At Nellis.
Yes.
How was that
Or
assignment?
Creech. I was at Creech. She was at Nellis.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, we loved it. We loved to eat different foods. They've got the Strip there. They've got the Asian District, all awesome restaurants, and just a lot of shows. So we had fun.
I've
Definitely.
been looking into like all of the like lists of like great food and restaurant opportunities around here, and I'm just so sad that everything's like takeout and closed, or like it's just outside of our 4-county reach kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of Michelin stars. Right?
Yeah, there's so many stars out there, so many stars to consume. Reach for the stars.
One day.
One day. You know, that's just it's a dream. Put it on my dream board. Put it on my vision board.
Yes,
right.
Make it happen.
That's right. What other experiences here at NPS did you have that contributed to your the future as a FAO?
So I've had many excellent instructors. All my professors have been outstanding. I also had the opportunity to have German exchange officer, another outstanding professor, but he's actually in the German Air Force, Colonel Hartmann, and just shedding light on NATO and U.S.-German relations. That was really beneficial. I had the opportunity to go to Germany for my immersion, work at the U.S. Embassy over there. So I saw it from that perspective, from a U.S. perspective, but then going through his class, he provided the German perspective and just taught me a lot about civil and military relations, the transatlantic link, and where the U.S. and NATO can be heading. So that was very helpful for my future.
I had heard that Berlin didn't have room for any FAO trainees or interns coming through. So interesting. Maybe it was just that John Cocomazzi was already there.
Whoops.
Did you do any interesting research while you were here?
No, I was fortunate in that I had a number of classes where the professor allowed you to either do a final or pursue a research paper in a topic that you found worthwhile upon their approval.
Was that nice having a choice?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
There was a few classes where I just chose to do the final because that class maybe didn't specifically pertain to my region or my country that I thought I was going to at the time. But the classes where I knew I could kind of finagle a question that was related to the material, it was so beneficial.
Okay.
Yeah, I was able to research the all about the Italian economy in the GPE class, Global Political Economy class. In a basically European comparative politics class, I researched Italy's relations with its neighbors and a lot of the domestic political situation going on there, especially with the Lega back in the day, and the more like an populist alt-right type of situation, and how all that was evolving. And then more recently, once I found out I was going to Switzerland, in my comparative border security class, I was able to work a research paper and presentation on the evolution of Switzerland and basically why Switzerland is not a part of the EU.
What did you find? Why isn't it part of the EU?
Well, a lot of the research points to the fact their identity is in conflict with joining the EU. So things like its neutrality, direct democracy, federal structure, and the lack of willingness to join a structure where they might have to give up the perception that they might have to give up their own ability to direct their future. And the important thing is that to realize there is that it's really an identity thing. A lot of the population is for joining the EU, but there's a disparity between urban and rural areas, and there's the different language areas, German, French, and Italian, and there's some disparities between those and how they feel about.
Based on what language they speak, the region that they come from?
Correct, yes. Yep. So there's a lot. They call it Sonderfall. It's the idea that Switzerland is its own kind of special case, exceptional case. So there's definitely a narrative that in order to maintain that case and that special case, they cannot join the EU.
Does that indicate to you that there's some kind of change in thinking based on the language?
Potentially. I think it might transcend the language lines, and it might be more that urban-rural divide.
What was the urban-rural split? Where I'm assuming here was the urban centers more in favor of the EU?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. In general. Now there's always caveats, but what I found was a lot of the rural central cantons, they call them, we're against changing the ways of the country.
In this federal system, do these cantons have equal kind of influence or power separate from their population amount?
Yes, that's a very good question. So for joining the EU, it's a constitutional change, and that requires a double majority vote of both the populace and the cantons. So if there's 26 cantons, to simplify, you need 14 that are on board. Now there's some half cantons, and they get half the votes, but in general, you need the majority of the population and the cantons.
Don't quote me on which state, but it's kind of like how now Nebraska, I think, is splitting up their electoral college votes, based on percentage of population vote. It might not be Nebraska, but I think it is, versus the winner take all. So there are some cantons that may split votes like that.
Yes, definitely, and these tend to be the more rural ones that are resisting the change in the joining the EU. And this all came down. Well, not all came down, but a lot of this was influenced. There was a vote to join the European Economic Area back in the 90s. The population votes, it was about 51% to 49%.
That's close.
Against. And then the cantons, the cantons stopped the pursuit of the European Economic Area. Basically 7 cantons is what the people needed, the country needed in order to prevail. So huge disparity between the cantons. The people were basically 50-50. So it kind of points to certain areas that are resistant to the change.
But understanding this mindset and maybe having had the opportunity here to research the country you're going to be working in right after NPS has given you insight into not only the Swiss government and its workings, but the population and how they feel.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a lot of people in America know that not every American thinks the same way, but maybe from the outside, you'd see an American and think, he's an American, he has these tastes, he has this identity. But just like we know, there's different regions, there's different preferences. In Switzerland, it's similar. There's, depending on which region you're talking about, which part of that region, if it's a city or a farm area, they might have different preferences. So you can't just go in assuming you know exactly what they're thinking. You have to think about where they're coming from, what they identify with.
Well, and let's not forget then that you had an opportunity here to be a full-time student to dig into this and do proper research. If you were still pulling 10 or whatever hour shifts doing remote piloted aircraft and you're like, hey, I've got an assignment to Switzerland, you would just probably show up and be and try to get the lay of the land. But now you've how has that affected you? You think? Or are you the kind of person that you would have, you would have been like, no, I'm going to go study this?
No, absolutely. There was no way I could have fit the amount of hours I spent researching my future assignment. There's no way I could have fit that time into doing my operational assignment prior to this. I definitely valued and benefited from the time I spent here, probably in ways I don't even realize right now. And then after graduating, having the opportunity to remain while I await PCS due to COVID restrictions, I've still pursued more research and trying to prepare myself for the future.
And in that time, you've done some teaching assistance, you said, and that's been in this sort of, I don't want to call it hybrid, but it's a distance learning environment in a situation in which we did not foresee being in a distance learning environment. Yes. So NPS had to, use all of their manpower and forces and brain trust available in order to create a learning environment for us to have classes full time at a distance.
Yeah, and I was impressed with how quick the decisions were made in a good way. In the past, I've seen delays and just kind of let's kick the ball down the road and we'll see what happens. But I was very impressed with how quickly we flexed to, hey, we're doing distance learning environment. That goes for the previous quarter as well as this current quarter. And I think that deciding that early really made a lot of positive impact. And you always reserve the option to revert back if you need to. But that speed was, I think, critical in making everything work.
Well, I think on the receiving end of decisions like that, it's a lot easier to accept too when it's decisive and quick in nature. I mean, clearly these were thought out, reasoned decisions, but they were made, and then there was follow through.
Yes. Yeah, but by speed I didn't mean like rash, but it was they were executed pretty quickly and in a good way.
So yeah, I mean, I guess that the point I'm making, in talking about your time here at NPS is that at least me as a student, I feel like I've been taken care of in that sense. Is that, like you said, the mission could have failed, right? The mission of NPS, if this wasn't talked about, if we let this situation creep up on us, but at the early indications that there was going to be an issue where we may have to learn over Zoom or webcam or what have you, the decisions were made and processes put in place that would allow us to do that. But I guess my question for you is, as a TA in that environment, when we were having these webcam sessions, you were actually a TA in one of my courses. Mm-hmm. What differences, and I haven't experienced the on-campus life at NPS. My first quarter was, the spring quarter at distance. What differences did you see or perceive in what you experienced on campus in residence versus what we have online?
Yeah, I'd say one of the big differences is during the 10-minute break that normally students get in between the 50-minute blocks. It's not just everyone goes and takes a break and then that's it. It's in a vacuum. When we were present during that 10 minutes, you'd take your break, but you'd chat with the guy and girl next to you. You'd talk to the teacher. You'd clarify things. You would vent about some frustrations from other classes. Maybe you weren't sure about something, and you get clarification. You kind of get a better understanding of what's going on around you. You talk about the sports game that was going on. So unfortunately, in the distance learning environment, that time is not the same. Now you can try to make up for that outside of class through certain venues, but that was, you were there. It was organic time spent with your fellow classmates that I think was really natural and strengthened your bonds between fellow officers and classmates.
Yeah, I would agree with you that there are some venues, and these venues, in my opinion, don't replace the experience, but I think can help supplement in a way. Now, before NPS, I was on some immersion time, and I was in a one-year program at the Defense Language Institute, kind of next door across Monterey, where I was learning Russian. And some of my classmates had some immersion at the same time, and we started NPS at the same time. So I had some people that I already knew. And one of those classmates created a Thursday evening recurring online Zoom session. So even though we were stuck at home, each Thursday evening we got on online, and we could see each other, and we could converse. We could pour a drink. We could talk about life. We could talk about the week. And that's normally, frankly, what we would do in the Trident room, I think, which was a great opportunity that, I joke that I have a mug hanging up there, but I haven't been able to use it since, sometime in 2019 past, which seems ages away. I don't know about you, but I feel like every day that passes in shelter in place, it feels like months have gone by.
No, I agree. Life is different.
Yeah. How's that been? We know each other. You know that I'm single, living at home alone. How's that been? But you've got wife and dogs, right? Have you found some solace in that, at least?
Definitely. Yeah, being able to take the dogs out and just the unconditional love of the dogs really helps.
You still go, oh, and you get to pet that dog and hold him in your lap and whatnot.
Yep.
Although one of your dogs seems like they're ready to tear somebody's face off sometimes, but I believe both of them are very cuddly and loving, right?
Yes. They're all bark, no bite.
All bark, no bite. That was the same for my doggy past. Yeah, that was all bark and loud, boisterous bark, and so. But I was like, but I got her. Like she understood me, and I understood her. And I suppose maybe a rude personal question, but has there been any additional stress leveraged on you and Maria in that time?
You mean for being kind of in close proximity more than normal? I was going to say surprisingly no, but fortunately no.
Fortunately no.
Yes,
okay.
yes. We've kind of set up a routine. She's very interested, and she's doing a lot of art, and so painting, drawing, knitting. Basically, while I do my research and I've been doing the TA piece of my duties here, she's been keeping herself occupied, and she's keeping active in that fashion. And we used to go to the beach, and we used to hang out with the dogs, and we will still hang out with the dogs, unfortunately. That we can't go to the beach. Unfortunately, we can't go to the beach.
Not unfortunately, you can't hang out with the dogs.
Yes, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. Those darn dogs.
No, but now that things are opening up, as a spouse, she has the opportunity to go out if she so desires. So I think she's going to start going out with some other spouses in a enclosed environment, in a safe environment. So that's not necessarily to escape my presence, but she's had some friends that she hasn't been able to keep up with.
But it's not so wrong to escape your presence either.
Correct.
No shame in
Correct.
that. I don't think that's ego breaking. That we all need our personal space and time,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes there's too much personal space and time, and it's like, you have all the open space and freedom in the world, and you feel so closed into a box. That's been my experience so far, which has been rough. But I've had a lot of friends and family to go back on, and there were rougher times than not, and some of the restrictions that have been let up a little that we're still allowed to do. Like I had you Maria, and I had decided that we could hang out together if the restrictions and policies would allow us to do so, and we brought in a couple other single officers in on that, and my program officer, who I hope to interview at a later time if he would agree to one and schedule it with me, would be. He linked me up with another single officer or two in the area that we could at least be communicating with each other and keep tabs on each other and see how one another were doing. Well, John, what made you interested in that Foreign Area Officer track for the Air Force then?
Yeah, so my first experience with international affairs and international officers, I'd say, was during my pilot training. I went and did the Euro-NATO Joint Jet pilot training. We had some international officers there, Italians, Germans, and some Dutch officers, pilots there. And I was just very, very impressed with their ability to fly the jet, and English was their second language. Here I'm struggling to fly, and they're just killing it. And it's all in English, and it's a new environment, new country. So I was like, I need to work with our peers and our allies. This is amazing. I didn't really expect to get the opportunity to do this with the path that I followed with C-130s and then RPAs after that. I did apply for an assignment to go to Italy to help train their RPA pilots. The timing didn't work out, but my personnel manager told me that I could go and try to do Foreign Area Officer instead. And at the time, our manning in the RPA community was not the greatest, so I didn't expect to be allowed to go on and do a non-flying job at the time. But he said, go forth and apply, and I did. I had some experience with Italian from high school, middle school, so I took the language tests, and I did pretty decently on those, and I got picked up for the program. And I got to do some time in Europe for my immersion, and then here I am at NPS, moving on to Switzerland. Yeah.
I mean, that's a story in and of itself. That just comes down to, the Defense Department and the Air Force manning and billeting and positions, right? I mean, there's no funny or weird story about how you got moved to Switzerland. It's just that Italy, vanished into the, into air. There's no mystery really there. It's just it was there. Now it's not. I mean, that's a story in and of itself. That just comes down to, the Defense Department and the Air Force manning and billeting and positions, right? I mean,
yeah.
there's no funny or weird story about how you got moved to Switzerland. It's just that Italy, vanished into the,
Yep.
But they were able to find you then a position similar to what you'd been training toward already in Switzerland, at least.
Yes, correct. Yeah, the billet in Italy disappeared. It went away, and it got moved to Switzerland. So now I'm fortunate enough to have the opportunity to learn German after this, and then go over to Switzerland in 2021.
Right on. What role has NPS played in this for you?
NPS has given me a great experience in gaining the perspective of the European theater, basically empathizing with our allies there and seeing it from their point of view. Just the international relations, the comparative politics, a lot of the core courses here have helped me better understand how our allies think and where they're coming from, so I can help better build relationships with them. That's one of the key aspects of my future position is to help keep these relationships and build them stronger, so we can both share our interests and improve upon our relationships.
Did you know when you applied for the program that NPS was going to be part of the route?
So for the Foreign Area Officer program, yes. At the time, and still it's the case right now, for the Air Force, NPS is the standard school for the Foreign Area Officer track. There was some talk about potentially, if you're going to train in your language on the East Coast, to maybe move that degree program to an East Coast school for logistics purposes, but the way it still stands, as far as I understand, every Air Force member that is going through direct development or deliberate development, for Foreign Area Officer comes to NPS.
Did you find value still in that, in making the move out here?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. While maybe logistically speaking, it would have been easier on the family to just remain on the East Coast where I trained for language, I would have most likely have gone to a civilian school without the number of military members in the joint and international environment. So one of the great aspects of NPS has been to meet new people and to network, to understand where they're coming from.
In your field as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And
Yep.
even, and from future, what I just heard you say, I think is, from other partner nations and future partnerships that you might be developing.
Definitely.
Is that you have an opportunity to network with some people here and build relationships with the type of people and other officers that you are going to work with in the future, right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, there was a Swiss Air Force officer that I was in a few classes with, and we hit it off great. And it's I look forward to seeing him again and catching up when I'm out there in a year.
I was going to say that's quite coincidental, and what's the word? I mean, what's the word for it? I'm even trying to think. Not just coincidental, but
Fate.
Beneficial kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah. So how coincidental that you would have a class with this Swiss officer that you will now immediately get to see in the future, probably.
Oh, most definitely, because yes, he's part of the general staff over there, and the size of their military is commensurate with the size of their country. So I'm sure we'll run into each other again.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Kind of the whole point is that I don't know how you feel, but I feel like this place is worth appreciating. NPS is an institution, and so what I offer is genuine feeling. I feel like you have as well, right?
I totally agree. Like when I hear stories about how they were talking about defunding the place, or some rumors about...
Okay, well, I haven't heard rumors like that, but I mean, you've been here longer than I have been. I've only been here online, essentially. Yeah. Webcam, and I live here, but it's kind of crazy to me. Like a lot of the feedback that I offered in the start was that this place offers everything I would desire as a student going into this program. It's an on-campus experience. We get to seminar and go through this with other people, and there's this esprit de corps camaraderie that comes alongside of that.
Oh yeah,
right?
And you're working with experts in their field with actual on the ground experience.
No, but I think part of the issues that you and I are sitting here in this room, and NPS has given us this space to talk about, and yet you and I have discussed that we don't feel beholden to the institution to talk about it in any sort of light whatsoever, and yet I think we're both genuinely appreciative of the opportunity we've been given. You here the entire time on campus versus like me, even the online quarter, as rough as it was, I was like, well, at least I'm here, and the institution is paying attention to me as a student that is here in part of their program. I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that I would have the same amount of attention being a purely distance learning student. And I guess that's a lesson for me here, is that, I think I'm going to have to call up and arrange an interview or something with a distance learning student to hear their experience, and maybe multiple, and figure out, what's really the story there. Even though I'm online on Zoom, I feel like my experience would be different and maybe less if I were purely distance.
If it's a virtual community versus a geographically separated community, and just you're here physically.
I'm only
in
geographically
Monterey.
separated in the sense that I have to stay at my house and you have to stay at yours, right?
But you're still present in the area.
We are,
and there's a feeling of like connection,
and and a focus. There's a communal focus. There's and that's compounded, right? Like, you're focusing on this here at NPS. I'm focusing on this here at NPS. But if we're all, let's be real. Like, if you were told, hey, you have to take these courses over the next 4 quarters this year, or if you were happened to have been a thesis student and it was even longer, like a longer program, right? Or you were here even longer than a year. If you were told you had to do that from not here, like you didn't get to move here, you didn't your old command would have its hooks in you, right?
I would believe that. Yeah, I don't know how you'd be able to escape. I feel like that would be pretty much the way things would go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great idea to reach out to the actual geographically separated members and see, are they being beholden to their previous command? Do they still have to do duties there?
Or are they given complete and utter freedom to concentrate on their studies here? Yeah.
That's a good question.
You were in the class that you TA'd that I was in this first quarter. I think we had a couple of distance learning students, certificate students, who didn't get to move here because of the coronavirus situation. And they just had to take the classes online from home, from a totally different time zone.
Yeah.
They had to wake up at 3 a.m. to get ready for school and be online. Like, what a world.
Couldn't have been easy. Checking in from Hawaii. Distance-wise.
Well,
Hawaii's good. But,
Hawaii is great, right? Yeah.
No sarcasm meant there. The time change. Whew.
I was just mentioning time zones. You bring up the fact that these people are in Hawaii, and all of a sudden all the sympathy disappears. It just evaporates into thin air.
Stop complaining.
You're in Hawaii, damn it.
No, that's a good question. I feel like it was never spoken whether or not they had to check in with their other unit or not. It was just
of course I want to hear it from them, right? And NPS has distance learning programs as well. People that take classes maybe one at a time over a number of quarters, and other programs they have. And of course, it's a difficult work-life balance. How do you feel like you accomplished work-life balance here? Did you feel like that was pretty easy to come by in your experience at NPS? You had, 4 classes a quarter, right?
Yes.
Was your experience?
Yep.
And I know that some people have different loads. But did you feel like that was a pretty decent load, easy to manage? You're able to attend to both, life and work?
Oh, yeah. I was under the impression of the play hard and work hard, but obviously work comes before play. But yeah, definitely I'd have a weekly schedule. Usually weekends I would plan to do something fun. Maria definitely helped with the fun parts, helping plan our activities and our out and backs and leave and all that.
I know that to be a fact, because on the other end, sometimes it was like, what are we doing? Are we going to do something this way? Hey, ask Maria. Maria's got something, she'll let you know.
Yes, she's the expert in that. I feel like I had a pretty decent work-life balance. However, like I said earlier, I would have, if I could do it again, I would have gotten together more with other people and new people. So whether you want to call that work or life, I think it maybe is a little bit of both, but maybe more just towards the life piece of it. I would have made more effort to foster that type of growth.
Well, you'd mentioned the Swiss officer, right, that you had some classes with?
Yes.
And that you're, presumably going to work with very soon in the future, right?
Yep.
Assuming, you get to PCS there anytime soon as the world starts to open back up or close back down or open back up or close back down. We'll see how it goes. What other interesting folks? Did you have any other good conversations here with people or?
Oh, yeah, definitely. International-wise, yeah. So Demetrius was from Greece, and we were very good friends. We hung out on multiple occasions, not necessarily at the Trident Room, but outside of NPS. And I got to work in class with a number of other international officers. But yes, these are lifelong relationships that, especially with Demetrius, that I fostered.
So what's next for you?
Well, basically going to be departing NPS in July, going to Washington, D.C. for some German language training over there, and then Attaché school followed by that,
right.
And then on to Switzerland, assuming Schengen area is open.
Right, yeah. Cheers to you. Thank you. We'll finish up our old fashions, and everybody out there have a good day.
Take care, all.
Thanks for joining us in the Trident Room. This episode was recorded on June 29th, 2020. For more information about today's guests and topics, please visit the show notes. The Trident Room has been brought to you by the Naval Postgraduate School Alumni Association and Foundation. For questions, comments, and suggestions, please email us at tridentroompodcasthost@nps.edu and find us online at nps.edu/Trident Room Podcast.